Hello, I'm Ilani, and today we are going to talk about international communication. Thank you for being here, Maria. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, Ilani. First off, I want to thank you for inviting me. My name is Maria. I'm from Peru. And currently, I'm living and studying here in Mexico. I've been living here in Mexico like since since 2020, and so I've been here for a long time. And I want to say this experience has been very important for me because it has allowed me to adapt myself to a new environment, meet new people, and obviously learn about a different culture while I'm continuing my studies.
Can you tell us about your experience living and studying in Mexico?
Well, of course, at the beginning, well, when I arrived here, it was the pandemic COVID, so it was strange, and when I was at the lockdown. But after that, after the lockdown and after the global pandemic calmed down, I feel like I already can experience what living in Mexico were like, and everything felt different, especially the food, the expressions, the way people interact, and not just in a school, like in everywhere. It was just different than my hometown. And I felt a little nervous because I didn't know many people, and the academic environment was new for me and was really different from Peru. The school calendar is very different than in Peru. However, over time, I start to adapt and make new friends and understand about the culture and the way classes work here and everything here. Now I feel more comfortable and confidence in here.
Thank you. What similarities did you notice between Peru and Mexico?
Well, I think the first similarity, and even that it's a little obvious, is the language. We both in Mexico and in Peru, they both talk Spanish. And also, I noticed that both culture are very warm and family orientated. People in both countries enjoyed a lot of spending time in families and friends, and which I also think is kind of common for countries in Latin America that are the culture is really family orientated. Also, food is very important in both cultures. There are many traditional dishes, and also they are like really delicious. I want to add. These similarities make me adapt easier, especially socially.
And what was the first cultural difference you noticed?
One of the first that I noticed is the way people speak. Even though in Peru, I we also talk in Spanish, and it's one of the similarities I mentioned before. It's really different the way the people use words. A lot of people here in Mexico use a lot of slangs and expressions that at first I was so confused. I didn't understand it. I was like, what they are saying? It didn't make sense at first. But of course, by the time I start to getting used to it and understand how people express themselves. Also, another difference is that Mexican food is so much spicier compared to Peruvian food, which was a big challenge for me at first because I used to didn't eat nothing spicy in Peru. But since I started living in Mexico, I decided to try more spicy things, and I didn't like it and enjoy it. And now in every food for me, I like to have something spicy.
What communication challenges did you face?
Well, I think I mentioned it, but I wanna like repeat it again. Even though we both speak Spanish, I have some difficulties understanding certain expressions and jokes and slangs used by students. Like in a college environment, um, people use a lot of slangs, and it's different because it's different if you compare it and you're like at the supermarket and you're like surrounded by old people. They don't use that much slangs, but when in the environment that I am as a college students use a lot of slang words, and it was different because sometimes I misunderstood conversations, especially when people spoke fast or use informal language, as I mentioned. This made communication a bit challenging in classes and social situations.
And how did you overcome those challenges?
Well, I started questioning it whenever I didn't understand something. It was a little embarrassing. I have to say, I was so embarrassing to ask, but it was either asking or either still like still misunderstand conversations. So I start to asking, even in class. I also pay attention to how my classmates spoke, and I try to learn how they express themselves and also the common expressions here. Over time, I improved my communication skills and became more confident when interacting with others. And I also started using Mexican slang words, which it was great.
And what surprised you the most about Mexican culture?
Well, I was really surprised by how friendly and welcome the people are, especially in a school. My classmates were very open and helped me a lot when I didn't understand something. As I mentioned in the last question, I had problems on trying to understand their slangs words, but they explained me and they were really kind about it and helped me a lot to understand and to adapt more easily. I also like how important traditions and celebration are, even in the academic environment. The last thing that I said, I want to say this again, but it really impacted me a lot that how traditions are so impactful here in Mexico, because in Peru, yeah, we have traditions, but also, they weren't that like powerful like here.
And have you had any funny misunderstanding?
Yeah, one time a classmate used a Mexican expression and I thought it was something seriously related to school. So I responded seriously and everyone laughed at me because it was actually a joke. Later, they explained it to me and I also laughed. I thought it was funny, definitely. Definitely it was embarrassing, obviously, but it was a good moment and a good laugh and a good moment of learning and a great moment to remember.
Was there a moment when you feel uncomfortable?
Yes, at the beginning, I felt uncomfortable when I didn't understand conversation in class or group work. I felt a bit excluded, but over time, I improved my understanding and I started to participating more, which made me feel much more included.
Well, thank you very much, Maria, for your time. That interview has taught us a lot in Peru and all the difference here, there, and here in Mexico. And thank you very much for your experience living here in Mexico.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for making me remember when I first arrived here and all the challenges I passed. Thank you.